Good morning, everyone. We will begin our Educator Effectiveness Committee this morning. Board members, please take note that there's some technology issues, so it will not appear on your monitor. However, it is at the top of the monitor here. All right, roll call, please.
Dr. Bofi? Present. Mr. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Edmonston? Present. Mr. Garvey? Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Dr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Lewis? Is not in attendance. Ms. Orange Jones? Is not in attendance. Mr. Rock?
Present.
Dr. Thomason?
Present.
Ms. Voce?
Here.
Mr. Spencer Kuiper?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Your consent agenda is ready for your approval, adding items 3.1 and 5.1.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Bofi, second.
Second.
Ms. Voce. Next item.
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of the certification preparation program proposal submitted by Caddo Parish Practitioner Teacher Program. The LDE recommendation is to approve the Caddo Parish PTP per the terms of the MOU established between the department and Caddo Parish Public Schools as outlined.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Davis, second, please. Mr. Laurie Thompson. Any objection? Yes.
Members, I just before you vote, I just want to commend Ellen McKinney, who is I'm proud to say is an alum of the department, and the work that she and the team at Caddo have done. This is a first of its kind pilot to have school systems do the certification work for their school systems. We had some concerns. We expressed them, meaning the board had some concerns, expressed them to the team at Caddo. They not only have rectified the concerns, but they made some of the biggest gains in the state on the on-site review process this year, and so I commend them for their great work, and it's great to see Ellen.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any objections to the motion? Any discussion?
I don't have any objections, but I have a question.
Sure.
So, John, I know that we have, I believe St. Bernard has a program where you're certifying, Ms. Voce. Then we have Caddo here. How many other programs do we have around the state?
We have Ascension, and we're about to consider Tangipahoa.
Okay. And what is this? Does Ascension have a certain focus area? Like, I'm looking at Caddo's here.
Yeah.
It seems like it's pretty specific. And I think if I remember from St. Bernard, it was pretty specific as well.
Well, Ms. Voce can speak to St. Bernard. I think Ascension and St. Bernard have a broader sort of where they can do all the license areas, but,
okay.
As I recall.
Okay.
Not quite all of them, but what we see as high need areas in our parish.
Okay. So it seems like it's something that some of our parishes are interested in, but not something that is like taken off statewide, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Well, I don't know that we, as meaning the board and the department, have really sent a signal that it should take off, which actually is an interesting question we should probably take up. I mean, we for example, haven't really put out an RFP to say to everybody, hey, if you're interested in doing this, you should apply to us. I think that was partially out of an abundance of caution, which is why St. Bernard and Ascension were the first two, and then Caddo. So we were trying to keep it small, but it probably is worth taking a step back and Hannah, maybe looking at this in sort of seeing what volume, what success rates, because it was a big thing 6 or 7 years ago when we first did it. So I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussions?
I don't have an objection, but I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Spencer,
So
please.
as an educator in Bossier, I have the opportunity to be boots on the ground as far as an educator still in the workforce. And with my colleagues in Caddo, we have the opportunity to work very closely with Caddo on many different projects. And the quality of the program that they put together, they're producing a lot of really quality teachers through that program. So congrats to Caddo, and keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you, Spencer. Yes, Ms. Voce.
I think we got the first teacher prep program as a district, and really it was out of tremendous need because the traditional teacher prep programs are not able to provide enough candidates, especially in the highest need areas in our state, the math, the science, we're even getting to the point of the ELA in middle and high schools, and of course special education teachers. So when they're not being produced, then what is your alternative? And we entered that. It's an expensive endeavor, and it's also very taxing on your existing staff. You have to expand a little bit. So it's not necessarily the easiest program to put together and have a high-quality program. But there's a definite need at this point throughout the state. And I'll be perfectly honest, if we had the appropriate number of teacher preparation candidates prepared by the traditional teacher prep programs, i.e. the universities, there wouldn't be as tremendous a need for it in certain pockets within communities. So.
Okay,
Can I
thank
ask
you.
another question?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Dr.
I just,
Rocky.
so Ms. Voce, what are you doing to recruit people into the St. Bernard program? Because I think that's what the preparation programs that I've spoken to feel like just recruiting people in is a challenge right now. So I'm curious as to what is the difference maker for you at the district level where you have candidates that are interested in working on certification?
Well, it's sort of a double-edged sword. We are, you're trying to recruit candidates that you're going to retain.
Yes.
You don't want to come in and train people who are going to be with you for 2 years or 3 years and then move on, because you're investing a great deal. By the time they get to the point where you feel they're becoming really good teachers, you don't want to see them leave. So retention is part of that. So to recruit, in all honesty, you're looking closer geographically. In our case, people who have grown up in the community or in the greater New Orleans area, in our case, and heavily going after them. We're going to colleges and universities, and not just going to education fairs, career fairs, but looking at people who have graduated in other areas other than education, who may have an interest in that, and recruiting those as well. So we're trying to work with our local colleges and universities in recruiting candidates who did not major in education.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, Dr. Jones.
John, and I don't know who to ask this question of, but on page 4, where it has the documentation of this item, down under the Caddo Parish's PTP's projected rating on the teacher preparation quality rating system, the second bullet there is teacher quality domain 1.0 out of 4. That's pretty low. What can you speak to that, or can someone speak to what that is and why is it so low?
Yeah, I believe that the reason, and I'm just going to, is that we had that was a very small N size, I believe, like an N size in the single digits. And so that hasn't been the pattern historically, but it was the pattern in the most recent cohort, I believe. What was the N? How many people were we talking about? 10, yeah. So it was the small N size that affected it. That's not been the historical rate, and I think it was mainly value-added driven in that measure.
So exactly what is the teacher quality domain?
There's within the rating system, and this will be discussed later when it comes up related to pushing the reporting back that we did the meeting about a couple of weeks ago. That just uses value-added for teachers who have value-added data in the subject where they're teaching, to calculate the performance of the preparation program. So it looks at alumni of the program 3 years into their careers, and it uses their value-added scores. This has been a pretty small program, and in the most recent batch, there were some teachers who struggled with value-added. We looked at this too, and it certainly and thought about it as we thought about coming back to you for recommendation. We decided to look at the whole process, and there are some areas such as the on-site review within which Caddo really stepped up. But perhaps it's worth making a note in the record that this is a weakness, and that it's worth reconsider or continuing to look at it.
So if that being the case, what does the district do to increase that teacher quality domain rating?
Well, I think in this case, you not only have the district being graded as a preparation program, but also the district is the ongoing employer of all of the teachers that you're describing. So, I mean, I've no secret to you. I think it's strong curriculum, ongoing support, and good formative assessment, good schools, more broadly, will help that teacher become more effective. My sense is, from having looked at this, that the teachers have been, we have told the school system that this was created to support this model that Ellen McKinney is here talking about. This model was created to support the most struggling schools. My sense is that a small number of teachers came out of the program. They were placed in some of the most struggling schools in the state, and they struggled in some of their initial years of teaching. We don't think that's a reason to not have them continue on doing what they're doing in Caddo, but you're right, it is worth noting.
Superintendent White, if I may. So that score particularly is assessed the year after the candidates leave the program, correct?
And for several years afterwards.
And so, yeah. And so that's not something that's happening immediately in the program. That's something happening after the program ends, and then it's based on data collected from the year after the candidate ends the program.
Right.
Gotcha.
And to Spencer, to that point, every program in the state now has what Dr. Jones and Mr. Kuiper are calling out, which is that it has these different measurements. And so later we're going to be talking about how public to make those measurements. We're going to suggest that we push it back a little bit. But it's there to provide a different set of views as to what's happening in the program. And if you recall, Dr. Jean Burns, who I think I saw Susanna somewhere, but she's in the back. Dr. Burns was pushing very hard at the time for having some objective test-based measure that wasn't just, are you doing a good job, but it's, are the people who graduated from your program doing a good job? And now, I'll just say this about, take St. Bernard just as an example because we were talking about it. St. Bernard historically has very high value-added marks for its workforce. And, is that a function of the fact that they're doing the preparation program, or is it a function of the ongoing support? I would imagine it's both. So I think probably both of those things are coming into play here.
Okay, well, I guess using the example you just noted, the lack of it would also be evidence of a need to improve in that area. Is that?
Definitely. I mean, now it's one indicator among several, but it definitely is something to flag.
Any other discussion? Yes, Ms.
And I also think it's worth noting, and I have no idea of the makeup of the cohort for this particular program, but when you're looking at VAM scores, we know that the majority of your teachers aren't even getting a VAM score. Mm-hmm. Most of your special education teachers, which is a major focus, for example, in our teacher prep program, by and large do not get VAM scores because of the nature of their jobs, either in a consultative role or full inclusion. Your high school math teachers up until this coming year with really the algebra and geometry, you only had maybe a portion of them getting VAM scores. Your ELA teachers in high schools were not getting VAM scores. The science teachers in the high schools and such were not getting VAM scores. So what's happening is, in particular in ours as well, there's a large segment of the teachers that you're preparing in these programs that do not get a VAM score. And this teacher quality domain, addresses the VAM score primarily for these particular teachers in these cohorts.
And I think it's also important to mention also on Ms. Voce's point that if you have a cohort that is so small and that you have a sampling of teachers, for example, if you have a targeted sample that is just special education teachers, you're not going to have a score for that domain at all, correct? Superintendent White?
That's right. And
so that value added, that teacher quality domain isn't even going to be accounted into that rating system for that year, correct?
For that teacher.
For that teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, or for that rating overall for that institution. Which one?
If they don't get to the end size threshold.
If you don't have 10.
Yeah,
right. And then Ms. Voce, a question for you as well. So for St. Bernard and then also for Ascension and for Caddo, is there collaboration between those three systems that are conducting this body of work, or are there strategies shared, or is it just kind of each system operating to the best of sort of its ability and need area?
Well, in our case, I think we were the first ones, so we did have some collaboration with We talked a lot with Ascension. We've had a few initial discussions with Tangipahoa, but what's happening in many of the, I say many, it's only a few of us, the focus might be a little different. I know in Ascension, I think, and I don't mean to speak for that couple, I'm looking around to see if anyone's here, but their focus may be on a certain cluster of schools, I think on the West Bank, TAP model, that type of thing. Whereas ours is a little broader range because all of our schools primarily are high-need schools. I've got, in my district, district-wide, 83% of our students are economically disadvantaged, and it's across all of our schools. Whereas maybe in other school systems, the focus would be different. And then our high-need areas may be a little different than the state's high-need areas. So every community, every school district should have if they're going to have a program, should have a focus that's specific to their particular needs within their districts.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other board members for discussion? Thank you. If no objection, we move forward. Motion passes. And next item, please.
Your next item is on page 5, item 2.2, consideration of the certification preparation program proposal submitted by Tangipahoa Parish School System. The LDE recommendation is to approve the request by Tangipahoa Parish School System to offer a practitioner teacher program as outlined.
So moved.
Second.
And members, this is a similar proposal, except this is a proposal to start something new. And I'll take another opportunity to brag on someone. Melissa Stilley, as you know, is a longtime alum of the department, a longer time alum of the Tangipahoa school system, and has, I think, been an exemplary superintendent in the short time since she's been in that job. She's been leading the state around issues of setting positive climate within schools, around school improvement under ESSA, and this would be a huge tool in the toolbox of Tangipahoa Parish, and I think a great example of improvement and expansion of good models. So I hope that you will adopt this recommendation.
Thank you. Any board discussion? We do have one public comment. Ms. Melissa Stiley, Superintendent. Please state your name and agency, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Superintendent White, Madam Secretary, and the BESE members. We just would like to thank you for this opportunity. I became superintendent in Tangipahoa in June of last year, and we were forced to start school in August with over 200 uncertified teachers in our parish, just because of the lack of certified teachers out there. And so immediately our team, and I have with me today Ms. Sharon Spring, who led the work in this application, along with Assistant Superintendent Ron Jinko, who works with human resource, human capital, oversees that area. And so we actively began working on this proposal early. We reached out to St. Bernard, Ascension, and then today we've networked with Caddo, and I think it is really important to network together in this process and learn from other districts as well. But we want to take action on this problem. This is not our only strategy. We are actually implementing many strategies to ensure quality teachers in every classroom. That's the goal. And so we hope that you guys will consider approving our proposal, and we thank you for the opportunity to implement this strategy in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to take one step back. Is Caddo here? Where are you? Okay, Ray Jane, good. Thank you. Thank you for being here, as well as Tangipahoa. Appreciate it. Board, any other discussion? Any objections? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item. Oh, good.
Your next item is on page 8, item 2.3, consideration of the certification preparation pathway submitted by Louisiana State University Alexandria. The LDE recommendation is to approve the LSUA certification preparation program for grades PK3 practitioner teacher pathway.
So moved.
So moved, Dr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Davis. Thank you. Any, no green card, any discussion? Superintendent, anyone? Is Louisiana State University from Alexandria here? Okay. Any objections to the motion? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 14, item 2.4, consideration of a proposal for the Early Childhood Ancillary Certificate Program submitted by Rapides Parish Career and Technical Education System. The LDE recommendation is to approve as outlined.
So moved.
Motion, Dr. Jones.
Second.
Second, Dr. Bofi. Any board discussion? Superintendent, none. We have a green card. We have Ms. Alicia Farrington. Please step forward and identify yourself and your agency, please.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Farrington.
One moment. I think you're... Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Farrington. I'm the CTE specialist for the Rapides Parish Career and Technical Education Program. I just wanted to take this time to thank you for considering our proposal. We've worked really hard to put this proposal together. It's a very unique opportunity for our high school students in Rapides Parish that we're excited about offering starting in August of 2019 if approved.
Let me say
Yes.
just one thing. I just want to commend Rapides. This is an example of a local district that's stepping up to basically become a certification provider, but not in the K-12 realm, and not even in the LA4 realm, in the child care realm. And I know this is an issue many of us have discussed a great deal, but I just appreciate the fact that they're seeing this as not just administering the program, but actually certifying the teachers to implement the program. And they're taking responsibility for the child cares and the Head Starts, not just the pre-Ks. So kudos to Rapides and best of luck.
We're very excited.
Very good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Board, any discussion? No? All right. Any objection? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 39, item 2.5, consideration of revisions to previously approved teacher preparation program provider assurances for alignment to updated program design BESE policy and teacher certification requirements submitted by Nichols State University. The LDE recommendation is to approve based on the submission of signed assurances confirming alignment to revised program requirements, the updated program areas to offer a teacher preparation program for certification purposes at Nichols State University as outlined.
Motion, and Ms. Voce, Ms. Edmondson, second.
This is really just a technical revision as to align with Nichols, what Nichols is truly offering versus what they had been offering previously.
All right, thank you. Dr. Jones?
Just a question. I noticed there were 5 or 6, I think, that had previously been offered that are not being offered. Was the reason for the change the lack of interest in that, or was it?
I don't know that we asked. They called us to tell us that they were no longer offering these programs. I don't know that we.
Superintendent,
Yes.
we do have a representative from Nichols. If you don't mind, I would like Ms. Elizabeth Block to come forward.
Oh, great.
A good friend of mine. Yes, she's with the Education Department.
Good morning, Superintendent and BESE members. So with regard to those programs, assurances were signed, but it's not that there's not an interest in those programs. We do not have the faculty to support those programs. So in terms of, there's an undergraduate biology program and then several master's and certification only programs. They were offered, but we want to make sure that the programs that we're offering, we have the faculty to support, that we submit SPA reports for those. So it's more of just a house cleaning item as opposed to a lack of interest.
Well, that leads
Dr.
to another
Jones.
question. You know, I noticed on there at least 4 of them are areas that we typically have a hard time getting teachers in. The chemistry, for example, and the foreign languages, the French and Spanish foreign language, and then the biology. But then I noticed up there that you still have a pathway showing there for those. Is that accurate?
So no, we would not have a pathway for those areas.
Okay. So the math one that's showing up there, for example, I'm sorry, not the math one, the, well, I guess I just answered my own question. That seems a shame that you're taking those off the table, I guess, and your reason is you don't have the faculty. Is it you don't have the money to hire the faculty, or is it that?
Well, it's more that those were really never on the table, I believe, in terms of when we met with Sarah Delano, we wanted to make sure that the programs that we had signed assurances for were programs that we had faculty for, that we conducted our reporting on, and we had a change in administration, and with that change, as we reviewed what had previously been signed, we wanted to make sure that everything was currently aligned to what was being offered. Those programs are not in the university bulletin, and so hopefully moving forward, if we're able to offer programs, we would go through the appropriate channels to get them approved and then to hire the faculty to offer those.
Thank you.
Dr. Jones, I believe there's been some administrative turnover at Nichols that may have been a part of this as well. If I understand what you're getting at, I think it's really valid. You're kind of asking, this is a leading university, why are we not seeing foreign language and chemistry type programs, which are essential pieces of the high school experience?
And where else does someone in that area go?
Right.
You know, most of these, as I was looking at them, they were master's certification type programs. In other words, if I understand that right, that would be people who are probably currently in the classroom trying to get certified to do that. So where do these people who are teaching high school chemistry, for example, and trying to get certified by going through the master's, where do those people now do that?
Well, so why don't, I don't know the answer to that question. It may be worth just looking at high school programs at the regional schools around the state and seeing where do these programs exist and where do they not. Obviously, in that part of the state, and in Assumption and Lafourche and Terrebonne, Nichols plays a predominant role in terms of training teachers. And it may be worth just us doing a survey of that, because I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm curious myself. I'm not laying blame on anybody, but when there's turnover, sometimes these decisions getting made.
You know, I'm concerned from the standpoint that when you see this happen, and I teach online, and I love online and I enjoy teaching online, but the reality is I would hate to see every teacher certification program at the master's degree level in that part of the state end up having to be taken online from some other university in the state. And they, regardless of what you say, you miss a certain amount of experiences by going purely online.
Yeah.
Dr. Jones, in support of Nichols and working with Elizabeth quite closely, and of course the interim dean, there has been some regrouping, reflection due to the fact that the former dean has left, I don't know how many months now, and they are doing their diligence to kind of regroup and seeing how to project ahead. And so do know that the local superintendents have really been in support and assisting the Department of Ed there.
Well, I want to be sure that everyone understands. I'm not casting blame. I'm casting
but it's good.
Concern.
Yeah,
that
they are very well aware of the needs and how to move forward. Yes, Ms. Voce.
Okay. I guess I'm not as concerned about the biology and the chemistry, because as long as there's a general science pathway, undergraduate and graduate, for a master's, to add on a biology or chemistry certification would be passing of a praxis. So I can understand if you're realigning to offer a full-blown program, at this point you may not have the faculty or the staff. I guess what I'm asking, if I wanted French and Spanish teachers, currently there's no undergraduate pathway for that?
Correct.
At the moment, and the middle schools, currently no undergraduate?
Correct.
Correct.
And the university doesn't even offer Spanish, French courses. And so that's part of the rationale behind this, is that we want to make sure that what is being offered, that what we're certifying candidates in is what we're offering not only in the college but in the university as well.
I see. I guess it's hard to offer if you don't offer any Spanish or
Correct.
French classes, per se. Okay, I understand now.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Block. We appreciate Dr. Block. Thank you. Any objections to the motion? Motion carried. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 52, item 4.1, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 746, Louisiana Standards for Certification of School Personnel regarding standards for effectiveness, counselor certification, and technical edits. The LDE recommendation is to approve as notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 746. Additional backup documentation has been distributed.
Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Davis, second. Mr. Thompson? Superintendent, any questions? Board members? 4.1. Okay. Any objections? Motion carried. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 55, item 4.2, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 130, regulations for the evaluation and assessment of school personnel regarding standards for effectiveness. The LDE recommendation is to approve as notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 130.
Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Davis, second, please. Mr. Rock, thank you. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carried. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 57, item 4.3, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 996, standards for approval of teacher and/or educational leader preparation programs regarding teacher and/or educational leader preparation program performance reporting. The LDE recommendation is to approve as notice of intent revisions to Bulletin 996.
Motion, please. Mr. Rock, second it. Dr. Jones. Any discussion from the board? We do have a green cord. Kate McAllister. Please state your agency, Ms. Kate.
Good morning. Thank you, Superintendent White and the board. I appreciate the opportunity to just say thank you. At your last meeting, we as a group, I am with the Louisiana Association of Colleges of Teacher Education, came to you and wished to delay the performance profiles, or wanted to look along with the Department of Ed and you with how the performance profiles were presented. You took that consideration very seriously, and we formed an ad hoc committee. I thought a very robust and productive conversation occurred here in Baton Rouge among the Department of Education, our group representing all of teacher preparation units that are university-based, as well as BESE. And so I'm appreciative and think that this revision or this consideration proposal to the bulletin is both thoughtful and accurate in reporting to the public. I also think from this a very rich relationship that will probably continue to meet quarterly will continue, and so I'm appreciative of that opportunity. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you, and I appreciate Dr. Jones and Ms. Holloway and Dr. Bofi for joining us. I thought it was a rich discussion, and I appreciate Susanna Craig and Shan Davis and Hannah Deach as well for their leadership, and just looking forward to the quarterly meetings, and it's been a great relationship. It's getting even better, so thank you for all that you've done.
Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great. Any objections, oppositions to the motion? Dr. Bofi.
Superintendent White, in that conversation, we had we talked a little bit about School Finder and putting the program profiles on School Finder, and then also signaling to the public that more information will be coming later. Have you had an opportunity to follow up with your staff to find out what the timeline will be for that?
I don't have the exact timeline, but we do have plans to, in the system, to create the shell so that we can report the non-evaluative information earlier, and I can give you the exact month at the next meeting or another time. We put out School Finder in early November or late October, so you could imagine it being somewhere in the fall and winter of this year.
I think that the point that the universities made about that also being a service, having those profiles up is a service. And so, and then I also just think in honor of the information that is to come, having people understand where they can expect it in the future is really important. So I appreciate you for following up on it.
Thank you, Dr. Bofi. Next item, please. Wait, I'm sorry. We didn't, no objection, motion carried. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.
Yes.